Staff would like to call this meeting to order. The staff of the Little Rock Department of Planning and Development would like to welcome everyone to the November 18th, 2021 meeting of the Little Rock Planning Commission. We'll begin with roll call.
Harold Baton.
Here.
Derek Brooks.
Present.
William Cheatham.
Here.
Todd Hart. Marlon Haynes.
Here.
Kat Hodge.
Here.
Paula Tour.
Here.
Alicia McDonald.
Here.
Diana Thomas. Michael Vickers.
Present.
Robbie Vogel.
Here.
You have a quorum. Staff would like to begin by welcoming 4 new commissioners to the Planning Commission: Commissioner Cheatham, Commissioner Hodge, Commissioner Latour, and Commissioner McDonald. Welcome to the commission. Congratulations on your appointment. And staff looks forward to working with you in the upcoming years. We'd also like to congratulate Commissioner Vogel on his reappointment to a second term to the commission. At this point, with the turnover in the commissioners, you're at a kind of a unique situation. You have no chair and vice chair at this point in time. So the first order of business needs to be to elect an interim chair and vice chair to preside over this meeting and the December meeting. And then in your January meeting, you will have another election for a chair and vice chair for next year. So with that being said, staff will open the floor for nominations for the position of interim chair.
I nominate Robbie Vogel for interim chair. We go ahead and do it all in one fell swoop, and Derek Brooks for vice chair.
But we'll need to take separate votes on that. So we have Commissioner Vogel as a nominee for chair. Do we have any other nominations?
I nominate Dr. Bennett, as vice chair as well.
As the position for chair?
Vice chair.
We're doing chair at this point.
Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So currently we have Commissioner Vogel as the nominee for chair. Any other nominations?
And given that, I withdraw the
Okay.
comment on Derek Brooks.
Okay, seeing none, the staff will close the floor for nominations for chair, and we'll take a roll call vote on the position of chair, interim chair, Commissioner Vogel.
Commissioner Benton.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham.
Yeah, Cheatham.
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Commissioner Haynes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner Latour.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous. Commissioner Vogel is the interim chair. We do have a nomination for Commissioner Benton for the interim vice chair. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, we'll close the floor for nomination for vice chair and take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Baton.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham.
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner Latour.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Vickers.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Commissioner Benton is now the interim vice chair. So at this point, we need to take about a 5-minute break so staff can switch over all the information, green cards, and all the information to Chairman Vogel.
Hey, Jamie. Up there. You want me to move up there?
Move up there, sir.
All rise.
Told me you weren't, I forgot it. It's old age.
Okay. All right. Okay. We have any on WebEx on any of these? There's the applicants, traffic study. Meetings last.
Ready?
And then
You ready to check this in here?
motion to,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
okay.
Okay.
So are we live? Okay. Do I need to be on video for this? Okay, we bring the meeting back to order. And then what we need to do is have a motion for the approval of the previous commission's meetings. So entertain a motion for the previous commission meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
We have a second. Now we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yeah, mine's down.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Yeah, it passes unanimous.
May we have a reading of the agenda, please?
Following is the consent agenda, Little Rock Planning Commission meeting of November 18th, 2021. You have 3 items on consent deferral. First is item C, LU 2021-1904, the land use plan amendment from office to commercial, southeast corner of Chenal Parkway and Chenal Valley Drive. Item C.1, Z9606, a rezoning from MF24 and O2 to C3 and C1, southeast corner of Chenal Parkway and Chenal Valley Drive. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on October 28th requesting that these two items, items C and C1, be deferred to the January 13th, 2022 Planning Commission agenda. Staff supports that request. Item number 3, file number Z9624, Washington Manufactured Home Conditional Use Permit, 17220 Crystal Valley Road. The applicant failed to send the required notifications to surrounding property owners. Therefore, the application needs to be deferred to the December 9th, 2021 Planning Commission agenda. Next are the items on consent approval. Item B, file number S1906, Morning Subdivision Replat, northwest corner of Beechwood Street and B Street. Staff recommends approval of the proposed replat and associated variances subject to compliance with the conditions and comments outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Item number 1, S1905, Rainwood Valley Subdivision Preliminary Plat, 12,023 Rainwood Drive. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat and associated variances subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Item number 4, Z9625, Hayes Manufactured Home Conditional Use Permit, number 1 Pam Drive. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP to allow double-wide manufactured home at number 1 Pam Drive, subject to the following conditions. Compliance with the comments and conditions noted in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Compliance with the manufactured home minimum siding standards as noted in section 36254D5 of the code. And the manufactured home is not to be rented and may be occupied only by the property owner or family member of the property owner. Item number 8, Z8576B, Avalani Enterprises, POD, 17500 Canis Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested POD zoning subject to the following conditions. Compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. And O2 permitted uses will be allowed as alternate uses for the POD zoning. Item number 9, Z6815B, Natural State Concrete Supply PDI, 8806 Mapleville Pike. Staff recommends approval of the requested PDI and OS zoning subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. And item number 10 is the 2022 Planning Commission calendar. We have had one request on item number 5 from Ron Woods, who is the applicant. He asked staff if he could address the commission and ask that item 5 be put on the consent agenda for deferral. So is Mr. Woods present? Okay. Seeing that Mr. Woods is not present, we will come back to item 5 on the regular agenda. So after item number 10, that concludes the consent agenda.
All right. Does somebody want to make a motion about the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda, including all the staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda. If your item was part of the consent deferral or consent approval and you're in the room, you have had your item voted on and you do not need to stay. Looks like everybody's going to stay, so that's great. Monty, is there a possibility of us changing up the regular agenda order so that we can kind of go in a different?
Sure, whatever you wish to do.
May we go with number 5 first?
Okay. Number 5 is file number Z8259A, the Baseline Road Shopping Center PCD
I'm
located
sorry,
south.
I'm sorry, 2. I'm sorry, I read that incorrectly. 2.
2, okay. Item number 2 is file number G25-228. This is the South Pine Street name change to UMS Boulevard. The applicant is requesting to change the name of that portion of South Pine Street located between Plateau Street and I-630 to UMS Boulevard. Street name change is requested as part of the UMS campus plan, specifically the new development occurring immediately east of the main campus buildings. And I guess before I go any further, this was put on the regular agenda because we had one WebEx attendee. We have no green cards, no one present at the meeting. I guess we should ask first if Ms. Stringfellow is present. So she is present, okay. So I'll continue with the staff analysis. South Pine Street between Plateau Street and I-630 is currently being reconstructed as a two-way, four-lane divided roadway. After the construction of the new roadway and it's accepted by the city of Little Rock, a portion of South Cedar Street between Plateau Street and I-630 will be requested to be abandoned. Signatures in support of the proposed street name change were submitted representing 31 of the 56 lots which abut this length of South Pine Street. Notice of the public hearing was sent to all residents and owners of the abutting lots. Notice was also sent to all neighborhood associations registered with the city of Little Rock. The following was noted in the engineering review comments, and I'll quote, "This name change could cause confusion primarily with the emergency response services and postal delivery services due to another street name, UAMS Campus Drive, with addressing ranging from 200 to 400, end of quote. The following is the applicant's response to the engineering comment. And again, I quote, UAMS would prefer to make the change to UMS Boulevard and feels that this would be more clear for out-of-town patients. The other street mentioned is named Campus Drive, not UAMS Campus Drive. This is a very short internal street. Also, UMS master plan shows that this Campus Drive will eventually be closed and become a campus area, a plaza area rather. Staff believes the proposed street name of UMS Boulevard will cause no confusion with other street names, and staff is supportive of the street name change request. Staff recommends approval of the request to change the name of that portion of South Pine Street located between Plateau Street and Interstate 630 to UMS Boulevard.
Thank you. Now we've had the readings, so the applicant is here, I presume.
Yes, my name is Robert Brown. I'm with Development Consultants, and we've been assisting UAMS with this application. With me here today is George McFerrin, representing UAMS, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Also, George has some statements he would like to make. If you
Would you like to defer to the single person on WebEx before you
that would be fine.
answer
Yes.
any questions? Okay. May we have the person on WebEx, Vicki Stringfellow, I believe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, okay. Yes, my name is Vicki Stringfellow, and I have owned my home there on Pine Street, 203 South Pine, since 2001. I'm also 70 years old, and I grew up in the neighborhood, and you know, basically have had family living on Pine Street, or at least in the immediate area, for 85 years. I understand and appreciate all of the improvements that UAMS is making in the neighborhood. However, due to the fact that my house is directly behind, in other words, my house faces the new generator, which means I look out my front door and I look at, you know, a building that's probably 4 stories high, is not exactly to my liking. And, you know, I'm not sure quite what to do about that situation. I walk in, you know, out my front door and I'm looking at a 4-story building. I have no idea how much noise it's going to make, any of that, right across the street from me. And I think that due to the fact that there's already been so much encroachment in the neighborhood for all of us, especially those of us who have legacies in the neighborhood, that it would behoove the city of Little Rock to leave Pine Street alone in terms of renaming. I think that we need to preserve our historical footprint in that area of town, and not just let, you know, UAMS, which I honor and love, the fact that UAMS is there. I do think on behalf of our neighborhood and on behalf of our you know, lineage, basically, of neighborhood people who've been there for ages, that we ought to maintain and preserve the Pine Street name. And I'm sure people are going to find out really quickly that it's a 4-lane street instead of a 2-lane Pine Street going one direction. It won't take, you know, people very long to catch on to that at all. So the renaming of that to UAMS Boulevard, in my opinion, is superfluous and doesn't have real merit in terms of people being able to identify what that street is immediately when the street is completely reconstructed. So those are my comments. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us, the commission?
Not at this point, but I might have questions after I hear the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. So the representatives, please.
Yes, I'd like to let Mr. McFerrin speak on behalf of UAMS, please.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and share these goals, and also to be able to just have an opportunity to share today the mission and hope that we want to partner with our community in Little Rock. And we, again, we thank y'all very much for the privilege to serve you as a community. The goal that we desire is to help with wayfinding for residents, for emergency vehicles with this name change. We also believe that from 630 over past the Plateau Street, this small section would become a boulevard, meaning it would be joined together, of course, as y'all know. And it's a short section that I believe would help delineate between the boulevard and when Pine and Cedar then again separate to become again streets at Pine and Cedar, not the boulevard. This will allow also for clear direction and right vicinity for emergency vehicles, for, again, as mentioned, for out-of-town visitors with the highway signage. And we just believe that it would also help establish that east boundary, which I know is something very important for the city and for UAMS. This would further delineate that east boundary being with the boulevard name change. So we feel like that the name change would benefit the city of Little Rock as a whole. It would benefit emergency services to have a clear delineation of where the U of A University of campus is. We also believe it would help residents to quickly find UAMS. We also believe that it would continue to demonstrate to the community we want to be a part of the community, and realizing we've all invested a lot of money to improve the area, and this would just be a way that we could, again, continue those improvements. With the generator in the building, we went really to great lengths to add extra sound attenuation in that building. We've already ran those generators and tested them, and so the sound is also something we want to be very sensitive to the community, and planting a lot of trees and trying to be sure that we beautify the boulevard. So all that being said, we believe it will be the best to rename it, to enhance the wayfinding and enhance also just the partnership that we have with the city and also to better serve the community and the residents nearby. Thank you.
All right, do any commissioners have any questions for the applicants? Does,
I only have one question. In the UMS master plan, is there any plan to rename any other streets in the area that you know of?
Thank you for the question. At this time, there is no plans to rename any streets on the master plan at this point that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
sir?
it's not,
Got to move down a place. Well, if there's no more questions for the applicant from the commission, and online, do you have any more questions for the commissioners?
Shep.
If not, I think it'd be in order now to have a vote on the change of the name, item number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of item G 25-228, including all the staff comments and conditions.
I second.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
No.
Commissioner Cheatham,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge, Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
No.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes.
passes 6-3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
move to item 5.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here for the Baseline Road Shopping Center, PCD? Mr. Woods, I think, was the gentleman. If the applicant's not here, can we get a motion to defer this?
Let me go check outside first.
Okay.
Chair, if I may?
Yes,
I'll be
you
right
may,
back.
Certainly. Applicant is not here. Okay. So since the applicant's not here, they wish to have it deferred. Is that correct?
Yes.
We defer item Z 8259-A to a future meeting.
Second.
Mr. Chair, that deferral will be to the January 13th meeting.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second to defer this meeting to the January.
There was a second,
There
Chair.
was a second.
Yeah, there was a second.
There's a motion and a second to defer this to the January meeting. We take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
You have a pass unanimous.
May we move to item 6, Z5502-I, Canis, West Canis Storage, PDC. Is the applicant here for that?
Mr. Chair, item number 6, file number Z5502I, West Canis Storage, PDC. The applicant proposes the property located at 17301 Canis Road be rezoned from R2 single family to PCD, planned commercial development, to allow development of 5.28 acres with an office and 11 mini warehouse buildings. The proposed site will take access from Canis Road and be developed in one phase. The office portion of the development includes an on-site manager's residence. Proposed office hours will be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. Gate hours will be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. 24-hour gate service will be available but kept as low as possible. The applicant notes that there are 5 parking spaces. Section 36502 3C of the city zoning ordinance would typically require 3 parking spaces for the office use. Staff believes the parking is sufficient to serve the proposed building. The applicant notes that trash collection will be accomplished with a residential style container for the office and apartment. There will be no dumpster on the site. The applicant notes that buildings 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will contain climate-controlled self-storage units in the center of each building, accessible by a hallway running the length of each building with typical roll-up doors. The applicant noted units visible around the perimeter of the building of the site will be standard self-storage units. Building 1 will be utilized for the storage of large RVs and will include 2 sizes, 15-foot by 15-foot unit and a 12-foot by 40-foot unit. The applicant notes there's no expectation of any open air outside storage of boats and RVs. However, on occasion, trailers may be temporarily stored on the southernmost portion of the site near the floodplain area. Details for internal traffic circulation paths for fire trucks, large RVs, and large box trucks for internal circulation throughout the site have been provided by the applicant, and staff believes the internal circulation of various vehicles, of these various vehicles types is sufficient. The applicant proposes to fill and extend an existing pond, which extends a good portion of the site in a north-south direction, located in the center of the property. Site plan shows the creek will be rerouted along the east property line and drain into the floodway. A stormwater detention pond is located at the southeast portion of the property to collect additional runoff from the site. The property contains approximately 427 feet of street frontage along Canis Road. The applicant proposes the following with respect to street improvements to Canis Road and drainage improvements. The owner will dedicate all of the required right-of-way. The owner will construct the east 120 feet of Canis Road to Master Street Plan standards, the half of the south side only. The applicant will add 2 5-foot tall by 10-foot wide barrels to the existing double 5-foot tall by 7-foot wide box, matching the length of the existing box culvert. The applicant will extend the ditch to Rock Creek as shown on the site plan and dedicate easements on the tributary and Rock Creek. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the required half-street improvements to Canis Road for the west approximate 307 feet of the street frontage for this property. Staff does not support that requested waiver. The applicant did provide responses and additional information to all issues raised by staff, and to staff's knowledge, the only outstanding issue is the waiver of street improvements. Staff recommends approval of the requested PDC zoning to allow a mini warehouse development, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Staff does recommend denial of the requested waiver of the required street improvements to Canis Road. And with that, staff would request that the commission take 2 votes, one on the PDC zoning and a separate vote on the waiver of the required street improvements to Canis Road.
There is the applicant at the podium. There's no cards to speak against it. So if you want to, there's a lady in the back who apparently wants to speak against or for this. Wow, being the new interim chair, how do we do this since I don't have any cards?
Chair, if I may, the pulling of the cards is set in the bylaws and the requirement that was approved. That is a condition that staff operates on. After that point in time, it is the chair's prerogative to allow people to speak after that, and also change the time frame for speaking other than 20 minutes required per side. So the choice is the chair's to allow speak.
Thank you for putting that choice in my hands. Historically, I'm not for changing bylaws or doing anything outside of the standard protocol. So can we answer, did you not understand, ma'am? Can you approach the podium real quickly? Did you ask anybody before the meeting if you could speak against this? Did you understand how the process worked? Help me.
Yes, I hadn't been here in quite some time because I was used to going to City Hall, but it's primarily a letter that my client had sent opposing this. So I don't know if anyone received that or not.
So you're representing somebody who
Correct.
has an opposition to this. And that person sent that notification or letter to whom?
Well, I spoke to Jamie earlier, and then I think one of your other, I don't know if Monty got it, possibly. Nope. It was sent to someone. I did not send it. He sent it.
I think in this instance, we'll listen to the applicant. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to speak. Next time, if anybody, for the record, needs to speak on an item, please come early, please fill out the cards, please make sure that your voice gets heard. These type instances are what hurt the process, but I apologize. In this instance, we're just going to allow the applicant to speak.
Is there anyone that ended up getting this particular complaint? Because I had called and asked, and they said that they had received it. So that just goes dismissed, I guess.
You're saying your client sent an email to whom, and we didn't receive any email from the staff or from the commission that we know about, so I don't know what to tell you other than...
Okay. All right. Well,
at this time, let's just listen to the applicant, and I apologize for the process, but we have to follow it. Thank you.
Chairman Vogel, commissioners, staff, my name is Tim Daters. I'm a consultant engineer with White Daters and Associates. This is an approximately 5.3 acre site located south of Canis Road. It's a short distance west from the Costco, which has just opened. It is separated from Costco by a energy transmission line right of way, and across the street from this site is the West Little Rock substation, also operated by Energy. We think that the mini storage, the storage use is a great use for this location. It will generate very little traffic. It's adjacent to a transmission line. And I think it's probably the highest and best use that you could expect on this particular piece of property. It'll generate very little traffic, and I'm glad that staff supports it. I think it's a good use. This site is bounded on the west by the floodway and floodplain of Rock Creek. The applicant is working with the Corps of Engineers to get all the permits in place to be able to proceed with the project, and we expect to have those as quickly as the Corps manages to get them out. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you do have. We have made an offer to staff in lieu of the full required master street plan improvements to construct the master street plan improvements in that area of the site, which is adjacent to the office and the driveway. And then we've also offered to expand the capacity of the culvert cross section, which crosses Canis Road at this location. The existing culverts are undersized. And what we've proposed to do is to add two more barrels to those existing culverts so that we could bring those up to capacity. And that's shown on one of your attachments, and I apologize, I was not able to get our presentation uploaded. But on the second or third page of that attachment, I guess the middle of it through, you can see the proposed improvements which we had proposed. I'm not sure whether that works or not. Where we did propose to widen Canis in front of our project, where our entrance is, but the cost of widening it across the entire frontage and the expansion of the box culvert is a real financial burden on this particular piece of property. And we do think that this area of Canis is going to develop in a real checkerboard pattern over the years because of the floodway that's adjacent to Canis and the energy substation was on the other side of the road. I think that this is a good opportunity for the city to look at some in lieu improvements. We just have not been successful in convincing staff that that's a good idea. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
With that, we're going to take 2 votes. So does anybody have any questions on the PCD? We're going to come back and vote on the waiver, correct, Monty?
I would move that we have approval for item Z5502, the West Canis PDC.
Second.
That said, can we vote on the PDC?
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chittum,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes.
passes unanimous.
So the next item up is.
Chair, if I
we're
may for a
going
second,
to-
of
Not
this-
item, go ahead.
Before we go to the item, a question was raised on whether a letter was received, and I'm just explaining this for the new commissioners' knowledge on this. When staff receives comments, we compile them, and then we send it a link to the commissioners on a set scheduled deadline prior to the meeting so they can see that. So it took me a little bit to go through the files to find it. I did find the letter that was sent in that the opposition presented. So that was in the link and in the documentation that was presented to the commissioners prior to this meeting.
Which email was it in?
It was in, it was at Z5502, opposition, and it was from Dr. Prasad.
Say the name again.
Dr. Prasad. And that was the correspondence that she was referring to.
That came in the November 18th link
Yes, sir.
in the document November 18th, 2021 Planning Commission.
It was in the correspondence, just a correspondent opposition or support folder.
That email would have gone out, I believe, Tuesday of this week.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So I just wanted for the record to let everybody know that the correspondence was received and it was submitted.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we take on that issue, we still have one more vote on,
I know. I'm just still trying to find where and who sent this out to us. Would it have come from you, Monty? Okay. Right. Who is the person that was opposing it? Dr.
Dr. Prasad, if I am pronouncing that right.
Okay, well, I wish I apologize for that, so.
So I have a, how does this work now that if someone cannot speak and they send a representative, but they're the one that initiated the email, how does that work? Do they still get an opportunity to speak? Or do we have to hear from the person that sent the email if they don't fill out a card?
Well, as explained previously, per the bylaws, anybody prior to the meeting has to fill out the green cards. Internal men, staff collects up the green cards, whether they're in opposition or support of an item, and present it to the chair for discernment, and for each item when they're brought up. And after that, if it is brought to staff's attention or the chair's attention that people want to speak, it is always given to the chair to make a decision and on whether to allow that individual to speak. if that individual is speaking on behalf of somebody else, they cannot legally represent another property owner at the podium unless they are, they sign affidavits for that deal and representation. So after that, that has been our stance. I would defer to the city attorney's office on any matter as far as any representation. Any individual can speak on their behalf, but speaking on somebody else's behalf is another matter.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm reading this real quickly here. Okay, well, I apologize that the person who was not in favor of this item was not present, and the representative was present but didn't get a card in. So I apologize for that, but we've still got the matter at hand, Monty, of the waiver that this property is seeking. So I guess we're going to hear, and then we're going to vote for the waiver or against the waiver.
Right.
But we'll have to vote.
You're ready for a motion to approve the requested waiver?
I have a few questions on the waiver. So are we going to present it a second time? Are you going to do the whole presentation a second time? Or are you going to?
No, that was part of the original presentation, so it's ready for questions and answers.
Okay. So where exactly on this map is the waiver that y'all are seeking? Is it the two drains that are?
That's correct, Commissioner, or Chairman Vogel. What we're proposing to do is add 2 additional culverts underneath Canis that would go all the way underneath Canis, both the north side and the south side.
Yes.
To increase the overall capacity there where it would pass the 100-year event underneath Canis Road. The improvements that we've got shown that we're proposing to do will cost somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000. The culverts across Canis will benefit everyone simply because it greatly increases the capacity of that culvert and will reduce the number of times that it's overtopped. We think in light of the likelihood that this section of Canis is going to be just a patchwork waiting for a bigger job, that these improvements are preferable to having no improvements at all.
What was staff's recommendation for this property?
Staff is opposed to the waiver.
Well, no, what were you saying he needed to do, the applicant, or?
The applicant is required to do half-street improvements to Canis. It's approximately 427 linear feet of street frontage, and they're proposing to do street improvements to about 120 feet of that.
Not the remainder of the property?
Not the
back to
remainder,
west?
remaining 307
Back to the west?
to the west.
Yes. Okay, go ahead, yes.
So that remaining linear, 300 or so linear feet touches and concerns the property we just voted on?
It is the street frontage of this subject property, and they're proposing just to leave it as is and not improve it.
A little historical background is usually the property that is being developed needs to be improved to the standards that are set for the street. So the applicant in this situation is asking not to improve the entire length of the property, but maybe a third of it?
Roughly a third of it. And again, this property is in the county. It's not in the city. It's just immediately east of another project that you just approved today where street improvements were not required, just simply the right-of-way dedication. In other words, the POD that you approved on 17500 Canis Road is required only to dedicate the right-of-way, not complete master street plan improvements across the frontage. I think it shows actually across the street on this graphic. It's just to the north and west. So I think it's a reasonable request. We'll have to take it to the board. Ultimately, it'll be the board of directors that grants this waiver. And so we'll have to make a presentation in case to the board as well, but we think it's warranted in this instance.
So you are willing to improve 1/3 of it and then add drainage?
That's correct.
The future hope that the Canis area widens.
We know the property on the other side of the road, which is the energy substation. That section will not be widened by the adjacent property owner. So it's going to take some type of overall project to get this approximately quarter-mile stretch from Costco out to Rawling Road done.
Okay. With that said, do any more commissioners?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So, sir, you said you spoke of different improvements that will be upgraded and things that you all will do, but you talked about a cost that was significant, that would pretty much be, I guess, outside of the budget to actually do this project. What was that cost based on your budget?
I think that improving the 120 feet of what we're proposing right now is approximately 150 to 200,000. If we do the other roughly, what was it, Monty, 307 some feet, that adds probably another 150 to $200,000 to the cost of the project.
Okay.
And again, on either end of this, it's going to be just simply a 24-foot wide pavement.
All right, thank you. And Monty, that does fit within the code. They are doing a little bit going above of what the actual, I guess, permit requires for them to actually do. Is that correct?
Well, with a new development like this, the master street plan requires that full half-street improvements be done to the property.
Gotcha.
And that's what they're requesting a waiver from.
Right. Thank you.
So with that said, we're going to make a motion to vote on this waiver if there's no more questions. If you vote for it, then you're allowing them to have the waiver. And if you're voting against it, they obviously don't get the waiver. So do we want to make a motion?
I move that we approve item Z5502 waiver to improvement to Cantrell Road.
Second.
And I have a legal question for the lawyers. Say again, if a yes vote is.
According to this motion that was made, which was a motion to approve waiver, then a yes vote approves the waiver, a no vote is against the waiver.
All right, you would approve all staff recommendations except for denial, or except for what y'all wanted to deny the waiver, so it would be except for denial.
Please take the motion, include that. Move for the approval of item Z5502I, including all staff comments and conditions, except the recommendation of denial.
Second.
May we take a vote?
Commissioner Baton,
Yes is for the waiver and a no is against the waiver. Okay. All right.
No.
I'm sorry. I understood the motion to be to approve the staff's recommendation of rejecting the waiver.
The way the vote would read would be all staff recommendations except for those that they denied, and staff denied the waiver. So you're accepting all staff recommendations, but them denying the waiver of of what the applicant wanted. Does that make sense?
It's awkward in how.
It is awkward. So all motions have to be in the positive. So staff did not recommend that the commission approve the waiver. So when you do the vote, you have to do it in the positive. So you would go, you make the motion that you approve with all staff recommendations, but for their denial of the waiver.
Okay.
So you're still voting yes if you think that the waiver should not be included. If you vote no, you think there should not be a waiver allowed. So we want to continue with the. Okay, sorry if I kept talking too long.
Is it too late to ask the question?
I don't think we heard you.
Is it too late to ask the question?
No.
Okay. I was going to ask the applicant if does not allowing the waiver, or if you have to do the whole frontage, does that deter you from being able to complete the project?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll make a motion again, and then we will roll call vote. If there's a second, we will take a roll call vote. So we have the question asked of the applicant. You want to make the motion again?
I move for the approval of item 5502I, including all staff comments and conditions except the recommendation of denial.
Mr. Chair, you're only voting on the waiver of street improvement. You've already approved the PDC.
Right.
So the motion should be, motion to approve the requested waiver of street improvements, period. That's all it has to be.
Okay, so
I move for the approval of
try for
the,
a third time.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Move for the approval of the waivers to improvement to Cantrell Road for item 5502I.
Do we have a second?
I guess we're going to vote on that. Wait a second.
We're thoroughly confused, so let's go.
Me too. If you're for it, how do you vote?
Yes.
If you are for the waiver, you vote yes. If you are against the waiver, you vote no.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baton,
No?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham,
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
No.
Commissioner Latour,
No.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
No.
Passes 5-4.
No, motion fails 5-4. Failure to receive 6 votes is a failure.
Thank you for hearing us.
All right, thank you.
And for everybody's knowledge, a waiver of the boundary street, in this instance, since it is not a subdivision matter, which the planning commission does have the authority of waiver of the boundary street on that, this is individual site. Therefore, boundary street waivers have to go to the board of directors for consideration and action. Your vote is submitted to them on this matter as a recommendation, and it will have to be a separate item to be voted on from the plan development. That is what the applicant was speaking about. So that this is just a recommendation only.
Thank you, applicant. We went out of order for kind of a purpose here. The last 2 items, I think, have the same applicant. So with that said, everybody in the room still should be here for items A and 7. Is that correct? Okay, so Director Collins mentioned earlier that we have a very strict 20-minute for the applicant and 20-minute for the opposition time for how long they get to speak, and it'll be strictly enforced, and you'll be on a stop clock. So we have, I guess we want to go with item A first. We have 4 cards and 3 WebEx that are opposed to item A, Z5817K. And then we also have 1 card in support of. So would the applicant for item A like to come up? And we'll have a reading.
Like to present staff report first.
Please.
Okay. Item A, file number Z5817K is the Cantrell West Retail Center, PCD, located at 15122 Cantrell Road. The applicant proposes to rezone this 3.8-acre property located at 15122 Cantrell Road from PDO, Planned Development Office, and R2, Single Family Residential, to PCD, Planned Commercial District. The property is located at the northeast corner of Cantrell Road and Rummel Road. The rezoning is requested to allow a 1-lot development to include a 3,600 square foot restaurant building and a 20,012 square foot shopping center structure. The proposed 3,600 square foot restaurant building will be located within the east quarter of the property. The restaurant use will include a drive-through window on the building's west side with a menu board on the east side. Paved parking and internal drives will be located along all sides of the restaurant building. The proposed 20,012 square foot shopping center structure will be located within the west three-quarters of the property. Paved parking and internal access drives will also be located along all sides of the shopping center building. It appears that the applicant has designed the internal drives to accommodate a drive-through window at the west end of the shopping center building. The applicant notes that the buildings will have maximum heights of 35 feet. The applicant also notes that the building's exterior facade construction will consist of a combination of brick, stone, glass, and metal. The applicant is showing a 4,015 square foot area for outdoor storage along the west property line. The site plan notes that this area will be screened. Staff does not support the use of an outdoor storage area at this location. The proposed site plan also shows two driveways from Cantrell Road. Each driveway will have a width of 36 feet. The applicant proposes to have one driveway from Rummel Road at the northwest corner of the site. This driveway will be a gated emergency access drive. The gated area will include a Knox box for emergency access. Staff does not support the requested PCD rezoning. Staff does not believe the request is reasonable. Staff believes the proposed development is too intense for this site. The property is designated as suburban office on the city's future land use plan and is located at the intersection of Cantrell Road and Rummel Road. Rummel Road is a local residential street which serves only single-family residences and dead ends approximately 3,000 feet to the north. Additionally, the property is located adjacent to R2 zone property to the north and across Rummel Road to the west and northwest. The property across Cantrell Road contains single-family residences and a small office zone property. Staff believes that a less intense commercial or office use would be most appropriate for this property. Staff recommends denial of the requested PCD rezoning. On October 4th, 2021, the applicant did submit a letter to staff revising the original PCD application. Acceptable zoning uses for the Cantrell West Shopping Center will be as follows. All O3 uses and conditional uses, all C1 uses and conditional uses except for the following: no pawn shop, no event center, no seasonal or temporary sales outside, no private club with dining or bar service, no school, commercial trade or craft. Other acceptable uses: 15100 Cantrell Road will be a sit-down restaurant with drive-through service with a 10 p.m. curfew, and more than 50% of the revenue will be from sit-down customers. 15200 Cantrell Road, west end cap of the large retail building, will be a drive-through window with no drive-through food restaurant. All other drive-through businesses for this west end cap are acceptable, such as pharmacy, medical clinic, dry cleaners, beverage shop, bank, coffee or tea store with no food service, nutrition store with no food service. Swimming pool sales and supplies, no outside display or equipment. Outside storage next to Rummel Road will be landscaped and has a 8-foot privacy fence around its perimeter. Access to Rummel Road will not be used by this development as a driveway entrance or exit except for in emergencies. No time restriction or size limit on a quiet business like a gym, pharmacy, medical office, donut or coffee shop, and a snow cone stand is acceptable. That was the revision given to staff on October 4th for this development. Staff continues to be non-supportive of the requested PCD rezoning with these revisions. Staff continues to believe that the proposed development is too intense for this site.
Applicant?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Vogel and commissioners, and the new ones that have been elected. Congratulations to all of y'all. I'm John Reese. I'm the applicant, and I'm thinking that I would like to defer to the neighborhood. Is that acceptable?
Certainly. All right, so we will start with the green cards who are in opposition in order that I have them in. Celia Martin.
I defer to the neighborhood presentation.
Gray Williams.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for seeing us. My name is Gray Williams. I live at 6 Thomas Park, which is one of the houses behind this intersection. I've been there since about 2001, and I've been driving by this intersection almost every day since 1975, so I know a little bit about it. Dick Stoker, who's behind me, and Dawn Persifka, who's probably one of the WebEx cards, and I have, this is kind of a joint presentation. I'm going to explain that here in a minute. Some of you who were on the commission long enough ago, you may remember about a year or so ago, there was a very similar application, and that was approved by the Planning Commission here, after which the Little Rock Board denied it unanimously due to the opposition and the points the neighborhoods raised. We collectively, and by collectively I'm talking about the development team and the neighbors, decided that we were going to try to work together to find something that works for both parties. And we've been doing that for about a year. We've met a number of times with the neighbors, the development team, had lots of emails, communications, phone calls, clarifications from various city staff and state officials and fire department and other entities that have control over various elements of this intersection and this property. And Dick Stoker and Dawn Persifka have kind of been the three of us collectively have kind of tried to represent the neighborhoods. And each of us lives in a different area behind this intersection. Dawn lives down in Tully Cove. I live on Thomas Park, which is the kind of at the northwest corner of this diagram here. And then Dick lives over the hill that Rummel, you can't see it because it ends at the top of the page, but Rummel keeps going and, as pointed out, dead ends over on the bottom of that next hill. We have collectively spent hundreds of hours on this topic. I can assure you of that. And I mean, that's the whole team, including the developers and the neighbors and everybody else. So the proposal that you are considering has gotten a lot of attention, reflects a lot of work. My understanding from Chris Stewart, the attorney for Reese Development, is that you each have a revised either site plan or list of uses or both that has just been handed out. That if it's complete, as I understand it, that'll have a revised list of acceptable uses, some hours limitations, and a site plan. Staff continues to recommend denial. We understand that. While we have come a long way, right now the neighborhood is, we, Dick, Dawn, and I, are unable to really confirm the neighborhood support, really because of two categorical items. One is there are multiple entrances on Cantrell Road. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And there's also deviation from the land use plan, which has this designated as suburban office. We believe the highest and best use is as its historic use, which has been office. But tonight we're going to make your job a little bit easier. I'm just going to tell you what I think the outcomes will be. If you approve the application as presented tonight, we know that there will continue to be strong opposition in the neighborhood, and that will show up at the board meeting. And we'll all get to see this again at this meeting. We believe that if you approve the application tonight with one, we think, important but small modification, that we will, Dick and Dawn and I, will commit to advocating for this development with our neighbors, and with the end that we would expect and hope that we would be able to all support it at the board. We do believe that the board's unanimous vote against the previous development and their attention to the process that we've been engaging in indicate that they're going to take the neighborhood's input very seriously. And I did not mention this, but city board members have been in communication with probably everybody on the team, development team, the neighbors, so they're watching this very closely. And I mean that in a good way. The one change that we would like to see that would allow us to really advocate for supporting the neighbors is to reduce the number of entrances on Cantrell from 2 to 1. We believe there's a significant safety issue when you add 2 driveways between Tzatziki's and Rummel Road. It's not very far. If you look at the city code that covers things like this, what you'll see is that the frontage is not sufficient for the number of driveways. There can't be enough separation between the driveways, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We understand you can make a variance to that code. We get that, but there is a reason for those conditions. I'm going to just walk through the properties surrounding this to the east and give you some data that will help you hopefully understand why we're concerned and help reaffirm the case that really one entrance is sufficient. This is about a 3-acre property. If you go one property to the east, Tzatziki's is on 1.5 acres and they have one entrance. If you go the next property to the east, there's a Regions and a Burger King and some doctor's offices. That's on 3.7 acres and it has one entrance. If you go the next property to the east, that's the new, I'm calling it new, it's been there 5 or 6 years, the new Kauffman Home Center with an auto repair place behind it and a fishing store and quite a bit of property yet to be developed. And it is over 4 acres and has one entrance. If you go to Pinnacle Creek, where Buffalo Wild Wings is, that's 4.2 acres and it has one entrance. That one's at the light at Taylor Loop, so I'm not sure that's a great comparison, but it has one entrance for 4.5 acres of development. There's a Walgreens also at that corner. It has 2.3 acres, and they have one entrance of their own, and then they also can access the entrance from Pinnacle Creek. The next development to the east is 2.7 acres, has a pizza cafe and another restaurant and a Pizza Hut, and they have 2.7 acres and one entrance. There's also an alleyway that I don't want to overlook, but it's basically one entrance. Pinnacle Station, which is owned by the applicant, is 1.9 acres immediately to the east of that, and there's one entrance. None of these developments that I've just named are anywhere near a residential street on the same side of the road the way this development is. You'll notice that Tzatziki's has this development next to it. All these others are just sequential next to each other. This one at the corner of Rummel is the only one that I'm even mentioning that abuts a residential road. We do not believe that you need 2 entrances, and we believe it's unsafe. And honestly, I've told John this, and so he can argue later. I think it'd be better for the development to only have one entrance. I think there's going to be some internal traffic confusion if you have 2, but that's for them to decide. I think that's probably all I'd like to say. The one person I definitely want you to hear and give a lot of weight to is May Brown, who is one of those green cards. And the reason I want you to really pay good attention to her is because they are the residence that is closest and actually almost adjoins this property across the street. So she's here, Dick Stoker's here, and I don't know who's on the WebEx, but we want to leave plenty of time for them, so I'm going to sit down and shut up.
So I
Thank
have
you
a
for your
question.
time.
Chair. I have a question, sir.
For me?
Yes.
Yes, Derek?
You made mention that you guys have met with the developer on numerous occasions.
Yes, sir.
My question is, why have you all not been able to come up with a mutual agreement?
Well, y'all keep me honest on this. I believe that we have come very close. We've made a lot of progress. I don't want to speak for them, but I will give you my perception that they think that this needs 2 entrances. Ernie Peters has done a traffic study. His study says it doesn't add too many things to Cantrell. Again, our concern is really not about Cantrell traffic. It's about Rummel Road, which adjoins this property. And we just haven't been able to come to agreement on that one issue. We've been able to agree on a lot of things, and we appreciate, the developer, and I know he appreciates us working together, and we really have developed a much more positive relationship over that time. But we just haven't been able to agree on this one item. So does that answer?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sir, I got a quick question here. Oh, you said a traffic study. Now, who done the traffic study and what traffic study was it done? Was it done by a third party?
Yes, Ernie
agency?
Peters, who you guys will see his name a lot if you haven't already. If you're one of the new commissioners, he does traffic studies all the time. His study is focused on how much new traffic this is going to bring to this location. We don't care how much new traffic is coming in. What we care about is there's already 30,000 cars a day, or whatever the right number is, traveling usually between 60 and 80 miles an hour past. And I mean, y'all can chuckle, but yeah, that's absolutely true. Once people hit Taylor Loop and they get through that light, they think they are home free. And I'm going to hurry up because there's nothing else in the way. And then meanwhile, you have people turning right, every however many feet. And we just think one more right turn instead of two more right turns that close to an already dangerous intersection. There was an accident there 2 weeks ago. We just think two's going to be very unsafe. It's going to create conflicts that don't need to be there. If you're turning left, turn left. If you're turning right, turn right. But if you have two driveways, there could be somebody turning right out of the east driveway and somebody turning left out of the west driveway, and their paths are going to conflict. So we're creating new conflicts by adding that second driveway to the property. And again, they've heard all this before, so we're not surprising them with any arguments, and they're not going to surprise us with any. We've had this out, and we just can't come to agreement on that one issue. But I do want to express that we do appreciate the time they've spent, and I especially appreciate the time that my neighbors have spent to get to this point, even though we haven't quite gotten to final resolution. But I do believe that what I'm presenting to you is this is the way to get this thing done.
Are there any other questions by the commissioners?
I have one more, Chair.
Certainly.
With the restaurants and the other businesses that you named that has one entryway, were there any conflict with the neighborhood when those developments came in because they only had one entrance?
I don't think the neighbors, Celia, please help me if I go too far astray. I don't think the neighbors have argued against having one entrance to any of those. In other words, I don't think any neighbor has said, oh, we got to have two entries into Kauffman or two into Pinnacle Station. But again, I also want to point out those are in a sector and a whole string of commercial properties that ends here with a residential street, and the residential street is a reason in my mind to keep this as safe as possible, and we think that's one entry. Again, I feel like I'm not answering your question.
Any other questions by the commissioners?
No, thank you.
And we have other people speak. So
We have Mimi Brown, I think you said was the last name? I think we have about 12 more minutes. Is that where you are?
Good afternoon. Thank you, commissioners and staff, for taking the time to meet today. I'll try to keep this brief.
1 second, ma'am.
Oh.
No, 9.5.
Okay, so you kept it going a little longer than I did. All right.
Okay,
So just
I'll
keep
keep
in
it brief
mind,
because I know we
I'll
have
have about
neighbors.
10 minutes, and then we got to cut you off. So
Gotcha.
there's you and at least a couple others.
Okay, so I'll just start. My name is Mimi Brown. my family and I live on Sorrells Road. We're the first house on that street, literally probably about 20 feet or less away from the property line of the proposed development. So you can imagine we have great interest in the plan and the application. Currently, we agree with the staff's recommendation to deny the application as it stands. We believe that it's, some of the uses are still a bit too intense, and we appreciate the developer working with the neighborhood, and we appreciate all the hours that everyone's put into it. I think we have come a long way. There are still some questions having it filed as a PCD. It's my understanding that's that's similar to maybe like a microzoning type of situation. So there are a lot of details in the application that I still had questions on, and I think maybe some of the neighbors had questions on. You know, things like lighting, deliveries, trash pickup, that might not seem like a big deal, but when you're living 20 feet away from it and, you know, a trash truck comes at 3 a.m., that is kind of a big deal. I also noticed in the application that the hours requested for the businesses were 6 a.m. to midnight. I don't know if that's changed since the updated application has been submitted, but we feel that's a little bit unreasonable. Tzatziki's next door has lights out at 10 p.m., so I would feel like something more in line with that would be more reasonable. Overall, from what we've seen, there are all O3 uses and C1 uses, with some exceptions listed that's being requested, and that to me for a PCD just seems like it's pretty open-ended. So I would like to see more specific details of what exactly it's going in there. I know Gray touched on the safety concerns of the 2 driveways. I also share that concern from Taylor Loop to Rummel Road, which is less than maybe a 1/4 of a mile span. If those 2 entrances go in, I think it would be 6 driveways. So as you can imagine, it's like brake light, brake light, brake light, and it's already pretty unsafe as it is now, and that would just increase in the safety hazard of that area. And my last point is, I know we had discussed this before, but I do want it to go in the official record regarding the Rummel Road exit, because there was a little bit of confusion in it about that in the past. The application, I believe, says that the city has the applicant has agreed to make it a permanent emergency exit only with the Knox box, or we would request that it be permanent. And I think we've received confirmation from the city, an email that says that would be a possibility to make it permanent, because there was question whether it would change later on. You know, if RDOT made changes to Cantrell Road and the surrounding areas, and there's about 50+ households that use that street as their only means to get in and out of Cantrell. So for these points that I've stated, I think we're just not ready to support the application as it is, and we would ask that you deny the application in its current state. I'd like to thank you for your time. I don't want to take up all the time for our other neighbors, so I guess that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Yes, we have a couple, I think.
My question is simply, if you go down to 1 driveway, are you happy?
Happier? Is that an answer? With, I would have to see what the updated uses are as well. I think that maybe it sounds like you all have received some additional information that we have not yet seen. So I would like to defer to be able to review what's in there for the uses. And then, you know, there are a couple specifics with hours, that type of thing, that would be important.
As I understand it, he said, if you go to 1 driveway, y'all are happy.
Yes, that's what I'm understanding.
I just want to be sure I heard him right.
I would like to clarify. My name is Dick Stoker.
You're up next, so hold on 1 second. So, Mrs. Brown, is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You said you live 20 feet away from the property?
Our property line, yes, is directly across Rummel.
Can somebody pull up a map and show? Not you, Monty. You point exactly where you live on?
Can I? Right up here? No. How do I do that? It's right. Where is? I mean, the property right across the street, literally right across Rummel. That is.
To the west of Rummel.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, you are the first house to
Yes.
the west, on the left as you go on the west of.
Yes, correct.
Yes, that's what we thought. And so her property does go down and abut the right-of-way to Highway 10. So the property lines would be the distance, property line would be the distance of the right-of-way of Rummel.
Okay. It's right, directly across the street.
Got it.
Yep.
Had a question. You answered it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
So we have Mr. Stoker
Thank you.
and
I would like to defer to
okay, we have Don and Ken on WebEx, so you'll defer, and we're somewhere around the how many minute mark?
I have 7 minutes.
7 minutes remaining, correct? All right, we got back on track. So do we have Don? We can do Ken or Don first. Okay, we'll do Ken
This is Ken
first.
Harrison.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Unfortunately, Dawn had to leave for another meeting. She was hoping this would be first on the agenda, as it appeared. She has another work-related meeting she had to go to. Again, my name is Ken Harrison. I live on Tully Cove. I'm president of our Property Owners Association, as well as our neighborhood association. And I appreciate your service to our city. You've seen a detailed explanation of why I'm against this proposal in the emails that I've sent you to the city staff, as well as to each commissioner. I applaud the city staff's recommendation to deny this. It is very well. It's exactly what I want to say to you. This developer, it's a classic case of the developer not respecting the city's land use plan and trying to put up an intense commercial activity right next to long-established residents. The developer knowingly bought this land just a few months ago. We have been there, these neighborhoods have been there for, well, I built my house 20 years ago, and I'm one of the newer ones. So he knew what he was getting. He knew that the zoning was not appropriate for his strip center that he wants to build, but he bought it anyway. So there's very little respect that he has for the city's land use plan. Mr. Reese is known for his cookie cutter strip centers that he's plopped around Little Rock. We don't need any more of those, or Little Rock's going to become known as a strip center city. There's nothing creative about his proposal. It's just another one of his cookie cutters, and he's determined to put intense commercial activity there. So again, I appreciate your time and request that you deny this proposal. Thanks.
Does any commissioner have a question for Mr. Harrison? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Stoker, would you like to speak? I think we have about 5 minutes left.
just basically because I collaborated with Gray on this, and he's pretty much presented the position, but I wanted to clarify the question that Commissioner Latour had, that if we go down to one driveway, would that make everybody happy? In a nutshell, we cannot say that it would, but if we can go to one driveway instead of two connecting to Cantrell, then the liaison committee that has been working with a developer would commit to trying to advocate this developer to the neighbors. We can't promise that the neighbors, and one of those is Ken Harrison, who is on the phone. We could not promise that we would be able to say everybody's going to be happy. But it would be a better solution in our eyes if we go to one driveway, and that would be something that we could get behind and take that back to the neighbors. But I'm not sitting here telling you that, taking it to the board, that everyone would be happy with it. That's really the clarification I wanted to make.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Stoker?
I have a question for staff, but not for Mr. Stoker.
Great. I have some questions for staff too.
Staff's recommendation that this proposal is too intense of a commercial use, does that consider the revised list of proposed commercial uses that we just received?
I'm not sure that we've seen that.
Okay.
Our last update was on October the 4th. Those were the uses that I read, and we still oppose it based on that.
Let me clarify the application. The uses that Mr. Moore read is the application. That was the one that was presented. That's the one that's been sent out. Anything that was sent out after that that was just sent by the applicant would be a modification of the application prior to this meeting. And that would be something that we would need to discuss with the city attorney present on whether we could even consider those items at this meeting.
That is correct. Chair, this is a situation that we get into when we start amending these applications on the night we're having the planning commission, because if this is a substantial change from their original application, we've got issues with due process. We may have issues where Mr. Reese is put under duress and feels like the commission's not going to support his application unless he agrees to a certain thing. So if this is substantial, I'm getting uncomfortable with this. In addition, if you haven't looked at what they've proposed, when did you submit that, John?
Can the applicant come back up, please?
Mr. Reese, when did you submit this current uses and?
I'm gonna let my engineer, Jess Griffin, answer that because he knows he was one that we revised it. And the reason we did this is we've been negotiating with Gray and the neighborhood up until today, basically. So we've been trying to find a meeting of the minds.
I understand.
So when did we send that?
I believe we've sent the list to the director, Lance Hines, and we sent it to the neighborhood, and we've been agreeing with them. After we try to get a hold of planning to get, after we got the write-up, before they issued the write-up to them, we had what their preliminary opinion was. And we're trying to figure out the uses of what was too intense. So then we went through and said, okay, we can reduce these uses. And I talked to Monty. He said that shouldn't be a problem if we were reducing things at the meeting. So I handed out something to try to take away some of these commercial uses that the neighbors were upset with. And we've also provided that list to the neighborhood committee we've been meeting with.
Well, and to answer Commissioner Hodges' question, I would say that staff hasn't reviewed that list. And their write-up was based on something from October 4th.
The ones we took off.
Which causes me concern.
All right, is the neighborhood finished, or are we ready to come up and rebut, or what?
Yes, sir. 1 second. You can stay at the podium. My question for staff is, can you explain the plan for Rummel Road? It seems very awkward in nature of how it curves, and what is the ultimate plan there? Is a stoplight planned on Highway 10? What's the plan for Rummel Road? Or do y'all even control it?
Well, we do control Rummel Road. There is no plan to do any improvements on Rummel Road. The DOT controls the highway, and all that has been ever proposed to us is very conceptual in nature at that location. So we cannot say in the future that the DOT ever plans to signal it. They will only signal it when warrants are met for that, and that has not been provided to us. It is conceptual only.
So there's no plan to improve Rummel Road at this time?
None.
Okay. Another procedural question for the applicant. We now have 9 commissioners. Is that an issue? 8, I'm sorry, I counted wrong. We only have 8 commissioners now present.
Typically, the commission, when you drop down to 8 or fewer commissioners, you will offer the applicant a deferral that is typically not charged to the applicant. Your bylaws allow an applicant to request 2 deferrals.
Right.
That's already been done in this case.
I know.
But you do allow, when you drop down to 8 or fewer commissioners, an applicant to defer if they want to without charging it to them, basically.
Hold on a second, Monty. Sean, do you have the bylaws with you, the current adopted one? Will you please look at that? Because I believe that we changed that criteria for the 8 when Mr. Latour was the chair.
Mr. Reese, I had a question. In regards to the one entrance,
Yes,
there was a lot of discussion on that.
yes, sir.
Is that something you're willing to consider?
Well, we've been considering, let me just explain a little bit about that. When we came back, when we initially presented this plan, we had 3 restaurants. We had 3 restaurants on the site, and this board approved it. We had 2 driveways. We had 3 restaurants. Okay, we went to the board. They did not like that, so they rejected our plan. So then we went back and started negotiating with Gray and his group, and we've been doing that since probably February. We've made a lot of progress. I really do appreciate Gray and Dick and Don, and they've been meeting with us. We've really enjoyed getting to know them, and I think they've really done a great job. So we've come together. Every time we meet, we say, okay, that's better. We're trying to get closer to what they want and what we can live with. The two driveways really are not, the city of Little Rock doesn't really have control of the State Highway 10. That is controlled by the state of Arkansas. They have approved us to have 2 driveways. The city of Little Rock has also said that they will approve the 2 driveways. So we want it also because typically speaking, the fire department likes to have 2 ways in and out. In case there's one blocked, then they have another way to get in and put out a fire, or for any other emergencies, they like 2 ways in and out. And that's just normal consequences that might occur. So we don't see eye to eye with the neighborhood that it'll be unsafe. I would like to bring Ernie Peters up here. He can give us some more detail information on that, but we would prefer to have 2. They're wanting 1. So we're kind of loggerheads right there, but I want to let Ernie speak.
Commissioners, if you would, Mr. Overton, while Mr. Peters is coming up, I can speak to the deferral item.
6.
And it is item A on the deferral. It says that on this, except in the event that 8 commissioners or less are in attendance at the hearing, the commissioner will give the applicant an option to be heard or deferred at the applicant's request. So they would need to request it. Any deferral in this case shall be as from the applicant. So it would count against the number of deferrals that an applicant can have on an application.
And this application's already had its 2 deferrals?
Yes.
I guess it's a moot point then.
I would leave that final determination to the city attorney, but if they...
Well, no, I got an old bylaw. Monty handed me an old bylaw, so I'm going to defer to you.
Well, that is the current, and then, yes, that would be that they are out of deferrals on that item, but the commission itself can also, on its own motion, request and approve a deferral. That doesn't count to anything, but that's typically, when we do that, it is done at something has changed on the application, and that typically staff needs to review something, and then it can be deferred at the commission's own action and vote.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Chris Stewart. I'm the attorney for Mr. Reese and Reese Commercial. And just a point of order, and I would like for Monty and Jamie to answer this. I'm not even sure. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to John to see if we would want to defer tonight. Since there are only 8 commissioners here, I think that's extremely prejudicial to him. But I believe one of those deferrals was done by the city, not us, because we were not here. We were, Mr. Reese as the applicant and Jess Griffin deferred one time at their request, but I thought the second one was done by Mr. Collins because we weren't present. I just want to make sure. I can't remember, and I'm just asking.
Well, if the applicant's not present, we can't hear the application, and so you have to defer.
Okay, is that what happened? Yeah. I'm just asking.
Yeah, if you're not here, then it's a deferral. The board has no choice. We're not going to present your application.
Yeah,
and you're going to be charged with the noticing and have to renotice and then reappear.
Okay.
It has to be done that it says the applicant on each item shall be present or represented at the public hearing. If they are not, the item is deferred, and that is at their.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I have a question, Chair.
Yes.
This list that we were given, have the neighborhood, the people that you all have met with, have they reviewed this form?
And our Hamilton site.
Commissioner, let me answer that. That has been given tonight to Torrance to be passed out, which is why you have it. The Neighborhood Coalition has seen that, but a point of order, since there are only 8 commissioners here tonight, and I read the tea leaves, and I've done this a little while, we are going to ask for the commission tonight to vote on a deferral for us on both the Hamilton site that he has later and also the current one, which is the Cantrell West, because I believe it's extremely presidential to my client on a due process and a legal basis to only have 8 commissioners. And so we request that you, as a commission, vote to grant us the deferral.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, well, what I would like to do is separate this into 2 separate votes on each item. Is that okay with staff to?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
We have no objection.
Okay. So the first motion, I guess we're going to entertain.
Second.
Yes. Certainly.
Is this conferral process that the applicant, oh, I'm not talking to the mic, I apologize. Is this conferral process that the applicant in the neighborhood is undertaken at the board or staff's recommendation?
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again,
This
Commissioner?
conferral process between the applicant, Mr. Reese said that they've been undertaking some back and forth good faith conferrals since February in order to come to a meeting of the minds. That's one statement. And then I asked a question that kind of jumped off this discussion about whether or not staff's recommendation to us regarding the intensity of the commercial use had taken into consideration the information we were provided tonight. And it sounds like there's some additional information. I guess the short version of my question is this process at the behest of this body or this city? And if so, does staff need an opportunity to consider this conferral process and provide us with a supplemental recommendation, if that's in order?
Commissioner Hodge, yes. Anytime that an application changes in front of the board, like they just submitted a use change that staff has not reviewed in detail and can make a recommendation, it is the purview of the commission to ask that question, and staff will respond in a manner that, and we can request a deferral in order for us to make that recommendation for the commission. If the commission chooses not to defer it, then we cannot make any recommendation on any item presented or condition presented at the meeting unless we have a time to review. Some items may be small enough that a review can happen at the meeting, but I do not suggest that. I always suggest that if items are presented that staff will can request a deferral if the commission so chooses, and then the commission can proceed with that. So if that is the question, that the commission is wanting staff to review what the applicant has presented out that we did not make a recommendation on, the answer is staff cannot make a recommendation on that unless this is deferred to the January 13th meeting to allow us time to review it. And also, if the applicant chooses to make any changes to the site plan, not that they have and not that they will, I'm not making that distinction right now, but if anything is proposed to change the driveway locations or numbers, we would have to review that also.
Any other questions by the commissioners here or online?
Could we answer the other question that she had? I believe our memory is something along the lines of some combination of Lance Hines and Chris and John and some neighbors kind of said, hey, why don't y'all get together and see if you can get along? And so that's kind of, no one told us to do it. We just kind of said, hey, yeah, this makes sense. Let's see what we can do. Yeah.
I think with that said, I think it'd be wise of this commission to seek a motion to allow them to continue that discussion. So at this time, could we get a motion on the item A, Z5817?
Already.
You made a motion for both items. Let's just make it for one. Vice Chair, but
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion to move Z5817 dash K, a motion to move to defer to January 13th.
Second.
may we have a vote, roll call vote?
Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheatham, Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes. And Commissioner Haynes, is he still on?
Yes, I'm still on. Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
I think that's 8-0.
8-0, it passed.
Okay, so the application that we discussed has been deferred until January 18th. I hope in the meantime, y'all's discussions on the property are productive and y'all can get closer and closer together for, a compromise that works for everybody. It's hard to get these things worked out, but I appreciate y'all's effort. So with that said, do we want to take a momentary break and get back into item 7?
Would like to add one thing,
You want that
please.
deferred too, I think.
Well, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
I would like to request next time, if we aren't on the consent, that we be put first, because it seems like when you're last, there's always a few commissioners that drop out. And just for the neighbors and for our sakes, that, we can get this through as quickly as possible next time, since we're coming back next time. I appreciate it.
Your request has been noted.
Mr. Chairman, have we taken up the second or the first deferral on the Hamilton side? Was that also in that vote, or are we about to do that?
Not quite yet. I have a question for staff. How many deferrals have we had on the item 7?
Item 7 is a new item, so there have been no deferrals.
So at this time, does the applicant want to defer?
We do, yes, sir.
So do we need to take a vote on that, or?
I move that we permit the deferral for the item Z7500H
A second.
That'll be to the January 13th agenda.
until January 13th agenda. Thank you.
All right, so we will take a vote on deferring item 7.
Commissioner Baton,
You call my name? Yes.
sorry, Commissioner Baton,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Haynes,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Latour,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Vickers,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
With that said, thank you all who came to participate in the process. We're sorry that, you didn't get a chance to all speak, but we have deferred these items till January 13th. So Monty, you had a question?
I just want to clarify, the deferral on item A was at the request of the commission.
Yes.
The deferral on item 7 is at the request of the applicant.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Can I ask a question?
Well, this is new for me, so I don't know if we are done taking public comment, but we certainly have that opportunity to.
The item has been, the item is done.
Shell.
The commission has voted.
Right.
There is a portion of citizen communication.
Yes.
At the very end of the commission,
Yes.
that anybody that wants to speak at that time may.
Yes.
But discussion on the items that has been closed is not permitted at this time.
So, sir, you understand the items that are in question have been closed. This is a public comment section, and you certainly need to introduce yourself. And
My name's Derek Burns.
Okay.
I live at 8 Sycamore Court. The closed item that I can't talk about, do all the pre-notification rules apply if deferred?
Yes, they have to renotice.
When is
They will
that-
have to renotice.
When is that notice due?
14 days before, right?
15 days.
15 days.
Okay. If an item changes in name, is it considered a new item? It's the same piece of property, but it was considered a new item. However, a zoning variance for that property was actually requested several months ago. If we just rename it, it's a new item.
Wouldn't it have to substantially change in concept?
The idea is it has to be, it cannot be identical or substantially identical.
I believe it is substantially different. So it's a new item.
So typically a name change, we look at uses of a property, zoning of a property. We do not zone a property and restrict it to a name. It is the use of the property, the zoning of the.
I mean, what it's named on the agenda.
And that is the same thing. It is, if they come in with a different application, staff reviews it pursuant to what they're asking, and it cannot be considered a separate application if it is not considered substantial, or if it's identical or substantially identical, it is the same application regardless of the name.
Okay. And what's the date of that meeting again, just for confirming?
It is January 13th.
Yeah, we voted on those in the consent agenda, so then all the dates for the next year will be published soon. January 13th is the first one in 2022.
Correct.
Yes.
Your next meeting is December 9th.
Right, yeah.
What is the distance of property that you have to have your notices out to?
200 feet.
200 feet?
But that's by bylaw. By state law, you have to run a public notice, and that public notice provides notice to the world. But the city has chosen to add additional notice requirements to people that were within 200 feet of a development to be notified of the application.
Where does that public notice have to be?
The public notice is ran by state law in a newspaper of prominent circulation. And for the city of Little Rock, that is the Daily Record.
The Daily Record?
That is correct.
Never heard of it.
It's there.
Something wrong with the Democrat Gazette?
We have been running in the Daily Record for, I don't know, it's decades upon decades upon decades. It is prominent circulation in the city, and you can find it in well, I don't think they use telephone books anymore. So I would say that if you get on and just search it on the internet, you'll be able to find the Daily Record in Little Rock.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comments. We appreciate them. As the interim chair, I would ask staff to update the contact list on the email or website so that the new commissioners are on there so they can get the fun emails that everybody gets. And the old commissioners who are no longer on there probably don't want to get those emails. So that would be my request. If we could make that a priority, that'd be very helpful.
Yes, we will look into that, Chair.
Thank you. With that said, any other questions by commissioners or comments?
I'd just like to welcome all the new commissioners here. Welcome aboard. It's going to be fun and exciting. So we look forward to move the city forward.
I want to echo Commissioner Vickers' statements, and y'all came for a fun one. So your first night got a lot to see, and look forward to working with y'all. So thank you for your time. And so
Please come back.
So with that said, nobody else, meeting's adjourned.
Oh, okay. Jamie, I misunderstood the question. I thought you said how many members for a quorum? It's 6.
It is 6 for a quorum, but we changed that for the deferral.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood the question.
Because we did used to